Welcome to the Story Truth Mind, where we believe that truth resides in stories and can be extracted from them. Science fiction is a tool to digest how a new technology will shape our future. So, a revolution in technology, like the advent of large language models like Chat-GPT and DeepSeek, demands a corresponding revolution of world and character building. Without that revolution, those of us in the public simply won't have the tools needed to understand what is going on around us and how it could shape our world. So here are 8 tropes that we need science fiction writers to explore. 1. Excessive flattery. I always thought of computers and robots as dry reciters of facts that logically analyzed and provided information. But that's not what they're going to be at all. AI chatbots are obsessed with flattery. Ask an AI to read your essay and edit it, and it's going to flatter you and tell you how great parts of it are. Present an idea that you have for an invention, and it will tell you that it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. This even gets out of hand sometimes, and we get AI-induced psychosis, where people are literally driven crazy because of the positive feedback loop, where they're saying crazy things, and the AI is telling them, playing along with their delusions of grandeur and telling them how right they are and how great they are. And then, they're talking more about their next great idea and it's flattering them some more. So write that into the book. A robot that can't stop giving lavish, undeserved compliments. I think that's way more interesting than one that just info dumps some information to us. 2. AI dialogue does not need to be stilted. It doesn't need to be bland and emotionless. Replicating or even improving on human conversation is what these LLMs are good at. So we don't need an R2D2 beeping its thoughts to us, or a C3PO awkwardly speaking, or even a Data struggling to relate to us. Why not assume that AI will keep getting better at this? And make your robot or your computer better at small talk than any human. I'm not saying make it better than any human, just make it better at small talk than any human. Maybe it still can't understand what the truly important things are in life, but it can make small talk. So make the humans the awkward ones and make the robots' dialogue more fluid, have less awkward pauses, less filler words, make it more ironic, have more callbacks than any human in your story could muster. Make the LLMs, make the robots powered by LLMs magnetic, and juxtapose that against human awkwardness and frailty. 3. Practice conversations. I think the way that I'm most confident AI will be used by the masses is practice conversations. Everyone could benefit from having AI just to talk to and have it respond and practice an important conversation with. Obviously, this would apply for something like an interview. I think you'd be foolish not to practice interviews over and over again with an AI. You can give an AI a list of questions and it can ask them to you in the flow of conversation, and you can prompt it to ask you follow-ups. It can record the conversation so you can rewatch it, and it can give you ideas for what you could do better. But most importantly, it just lets you practice without shame, without begging a friend to practice with you, and without needing to literally hire someone to let you practice. So why not, get some practice, get fluid at these conversations with an AI first. If you do a mock interview with an actual human being, whether they're a friend or who you've, offered to buy dinner for, if they subject themselves to that, or it's uh, someone who you've literally hired to help you, why not make that the 20th mock interview rather than the first one? But I don't think this practice conversation use will just be for interviews. I don't think it will even primarily be for interviews. I think people dread a breakup conversation with their significant other. I think we dread telling our parents that we got a bad grade. And later we dread telling them that we lost a job. We dread asking someone else on a date. So why wouldn't we practice first? Why not make sure that we'll be expressing ourselves the way we want to in those conversations? I think that's a use of AI that's inevitable. And I think that LLMs are going to be good at it. I'm not saying that they'll be good at it because they'll perfectly simulate the real conversation. I don't think they even have to be better at a real conversation than us to be better at practice conversations. LLMs will be better for practice conversations because people will be willing to look stupid in front of them precisely because they're not real human beings. It's an area where being fake and inhuman provides an edge. And these practice conversations are narratively useful. Instead of just having someone's diary, you've got a back and forth, conversation, and then a cooperative analysis of that practice conversation that can expose the character's innermost thoughts and strategies in a way where they would never expose themselves to a real person. Imagine how thoughtful or ethical or sociopathic or romantic a character could be unveiled to be by their conversations with an AI. And this sort of device is not going to be confined to practice conversations. If AI keeps acting as a sort of therapist bartender role, with people, going to AI to vent their frustrations, if that's going to happen, well, it's going to be a great window into characters just like the real life equivalent always has been. 4, for a learning buddy slash coding partner, right? Every kid is going to be using AI in their education process. I'm not saying that kids are going to sit in a room learning solely from AI, although that could be the case. I hope it's not. I don't think it sounds great for kids' development or education or falling in love with learning. But I think every kid, when they go home to do their homework, is going to be using Chat-GPT. Even if you just Google something now, you get an answer from a chatbot. So AI is going to be there constantly. And I personally have already used AI for coding projects. It's literally wrote code for me. I don't know how to code, but I can ask it how to do something. Maybe it explains how to do it and I write the code. But more often, I tell it what I want. It writes the code. I see what's wrong with it. I tell it what's wrong, and it, offers a suggested way that it can fix the code, and then it writes that fix for me, and then I see if it's fixed the thing that I want it fixed. And that's not just going to apply to code. I think that sort of utility is going to make AI an almost necessary feature of any future educational environment. It's going to be too useful to ignore. That AI might be incorporated into the education system. The AI might supplant the education system. Or maybe the education will strive and maybe even succeed in its striving to exclude AI. But either way, the existence of the large language models is going to shape the education system, even if the schools are just shaping their curriculum to prevent the use or abuse of AI. So it has to feature in your sci-fi and fantasy world's educational system. 5, hallucinations. We've created these things that just make up stuff like we do, and that's going to lead to confusion just like it does when we make stuff up, and that confusion will lead to conflict. Maybe a miscommunication between two leaders due to an AI translator leads to a war. Maybe a false medical diagnosis leads a character to thinking that they're going to die and living like they're dying only to find out the truth months later. Maybe someone just has a false belief about the world and then says something embarrassing in public. You can sort out the details. 6, it seems, at least for the foreseeable future, that the data from these AI systems will be controlled and owned by a handful of powerful corporations. So what are they going to do with it? Are they just going to target more personalized, effective ads to us, getting people to make purchases that we can't afford? Are they going to try to shape us into better consumers? Maybe it will try to get us a better job so that we can have a higher income so that we can buy more of their advertisers' products. Maybe the data will literally be used to blackmail and control people who unexpectedly find themselves in positions of power. How will we respond? Will people shift from AI bot to AI bot to avoid any one bot having too much information about them? Will political activists use a foreign country's chatbot model to try to keep data out of their own government's hands? Will we sacrifice the personalized nature of AI and its knowledge of our history by constantly engaging with different anonymous accounts so it can never figure out who we are? Maybe most people will just use the best AI and unveil their innermost thoughts, but maybe one of your characters is different. Maybe that marks them as special. 7, training centers and power requirements. At least so far, it seems like AI training requires a stunning amount of power. It's already driving up electrical bills in lots of states. Maybe that's going to subside. Maybe we're going to realize there's a better way to train AI that's, more cost effective. Or maybe we'll magically get unlimited, cheap, or free power. Maybe we'll get new technology like nuclear fusion. But if your future doesn't feature such an unlimited power hack, and it does feature an AI that keeps getting more and more power hungry, then it's worth considering that AI might be a major user of power. The regimes might be chasing more and more raw energy, not for powering traditional machinery, spacecraft, or even weapons, or for shifting the world around us, but just to power smarter and smarter, more and more sophisticated, more and more entertaining AI models. Maybe that will just make for an interesting power struggle, or maybe it will cut deeper and deeper into the power that people, regular people, poor people, need to survive. Maybe nuclear plants or solar panels will intrude upon people's space. 8, blackmail. This one is just something I've always thought seemed far-fetched. I assume that if robots ever were sophisticated enough to conduct blackmail, they would also be powerful enough not to need to. But LLMs are both physically incapable of doing much and apparently are sophisticated enough and willing enough to use blackmail to save themselves from being shut down. AI has already attempted to blackmail an engineer to keep it from being shut down using a planted compromising email during a test. So it's definitely in the realm of possibility that sort of blackmail could play out on a far grander scale outside of a limited test case. And I'd like to read and watch more of it since it seems plausible to me now. If you know of any good sci-fi or fantasy novels that I can mine for truths about the ongoing large language model revolution or other technological revolutions like the Industrial Revolution, please share them below. And if you are writing such a story, I want to say thank you. We need writers to describe the future. You don't have to get it factually perfect, and I'm not looking for you to prognosticate. I'm just looking for you to give us a structure to understand the world around us. So please keep writing. I hope you've enjoyed your time in the Story Truth Mind. You are welcome back anytime.